A rare case of New World screwworm has been found in Maryland. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says it came from a patient who recently traveled to El Salvador. The parasite hasn't been found in the U.S. since roughly half a century ago. It's a larval version of a fly that nests in warm-blooded animals and slowly eats them alive. Are you kidding me? This is... oh my gosh. Yeah, this is scary. It's hard to look at. Officials say there's no significant threat to the general U.S. population, but it can pose potential problems for some animals and foods.
Dangerous flesh-eating parasite, the New World screwworm, has been spotted just miles from the Texas border in northern Mexico. That's raising alarms for Texas livestock, producers, pet owners, and wildlife officials. Experts say the screwworm, which was extricated in the U.S. back in the 1960s, has now reemerged near the border, digging into live tissue.
The challenge with this pest is that the unfortunate challenge with this pest is that when the maggot infests the animal, it eats live flesh, and so as a result you end up with death loss.
To prevent the parasite from spreading into the U.S., a new sterile fly facility is being built in South Texas. The strategy involves releasing sterile male flies to wipe out the population, a method that worked decades ago. Meanwhile, the USDA has already shut down cattle and horse imports from Mexico as a precaution.
A South Lake Tahoe resident has tested positive for the plague. No kidding, that plague. Obviously, it's nowhere near as dangerous as it was centuries ago, but officials warn it still needs to be taken very seriously. Health officials in El Dorado County believe that person got it from a flea bite while camping.
A case of bubonic plague in South Lake Tahoe is raising eyebrows and making people wonder.
I think it's crazy. I didn't even know the plague was still something that was going on.
And on the Health Watch, a person living in Nevada has tested positive for the bubonic plague. The South Lake Tahoe resident is now recovering at home, but it's left a lot of people wondering how the plague is spreading.
A New Mexico man sick with the plague. He was camping in Rio Arriba County where he may have been exposed, according to the health department. The Valencia County man has been discharged from the hospital. This marks the first case of the plague this year in New Mexico.
A person in northern Arizona has died from the plague. Health authorities say the victim showed up to the Flagstaff Medical Center with symptoms and died later that day.
When we hear the word plague, many minds jump to the bubonic plague from the 1300s.
This disease actually killed between a third and a half of Europe.
Now, the same disease that killed 600 millions 600 years ago, is more common than you think. Health officials say that plague bacteria, commonly found in higher elevation areas, is carried by rodents and often transmitted by fleas. Now, so far, 4 rodents have tested positive for the plague just this year. Experts say make sure to avoid the bacteria. You could do that by using insect repellent, making sure you're covered up, and making sure any pets have tick and flea medication.
The first case of the plague this year found inside of a 43-year-old Valencia County man. According to the New Mexico Department of Health, the man may have contracted the disease while camping in Rio Arriba County. The disease is known to be carried in wildlife and can be transmitted to humans through infected fleas.
So you don't want to get an insect bite, so an infected flea that has plague will spread it to other animals. That's why other pets and other wildlife can get plague, but it can be passed to humans too if you get bit by that infected flea.
Again, it's extremely rare. On average, the CDC says there are only 7 reported cases of plague a year in the U.S.
The CDC had previously confirmed the first New World screwworm case in the U.S. on August 4th. Maryland Health Department officials released a statement on Monday saying the impacted person has since recovered, adding that experts found no transmission to other people or animals.
It's not common that people will get infested with these.
The New World screwworm is a little bit larger than a housefly and is rare in people.
Kavita Patel, you knew if there was a flesh-eating parasite, we were going to be talking about it on this show and what we need to know, right? We thought this was eradicated, didn't we? Didn't we think this was pretty much wiped out?
Yeah, you're right, Hallie. It was eradicated. This was done decades ago for a fascinating mechanism. We actually raised billions of sterilized screwworm flies. So we raise the flies, sterilize them with radiation, and then drop them out of planes. You feel like this is a science fiction movie. It was real. Over Mexico and Central America, because the flies can't reproduce, they can't propagate. the screwworm fly. So that's basically how we created this barrier zone, which has worked for decades until recently, as it's broken down kind of in that Panama, Colombia region, and then it can spread from there.
Is it not at all bad for humans? Is it a little bad for humans? Can it not spread to humans? Like, how concerned should we be?
Yeah, so the concern obviously for humans is there. It's treatable. So it's not just that we need to identify it, but it's also, Hallie, the implication for cattle and for crops and for people, for animals. So it's people, animals, all of our ecosystem that can be exposed to this. So what happens basically is they kind of hatch their eggs and larvae into like an open wound. And this can be in any animal, including a human, but it can be in cattle.
The New World screwworm is a parasitic fly which lays its eggs in the tissue of living animals, primarily livestock, like cattle. But on Monday, the Department of Health and Human Services confirmed the first human case of New World screwworm in the United States. This after a person traveled back to Maryland from El Salvador, where there's an ongoing outbreak. The maggots can cause serious damage and can kill those infected.
It gets this common name, screwworm, named after the maggot stage, because it's found in the sort of infested animals, and the screwworm looks like it's sort of screwing itself into the flesh as they're eating the animal.
The CDC had previously confirmed the U.S. case on August 4th, and Maryland Health Department officials released a statement on Monday saying the impacted person has since recovered, adding experts found no transmission to other people or animals.
It's not common that people will get infested with these.
The New World screwworm is a little bit bigger than a housefly and is rare in people. But back in July, U.S. officials paused imports of live cattle from Mexico over fears the New World screwworm fly was spreading north from southern parts of the country. The lasting suspension is straining the finances of many Mexican cattle ranchers.
We understand they are engaged in plans to establish traps for the screwworm fly in the northern region where the exporters are, to detect that there are no screwworm flies. And I think we will soon have news.
And if it can happen to a human, whether it's from travel exposure, weakened immune systems, that's exactly how we saw this Maryland case progress.
Can it
but
spread?
Treatable, recognizable.
Okay.
It can, humans can, it can. Yes, it can spread, but this is again why we're seeing that reproduction of those sterilized flies come back into the forefront, because what we need to do is really kind of stop this from propagating and any reinfestation that could happen. So that's the most important thing that we can do. And of course, staying away from anything or recognizing it, just as this individual did.